Hello, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here once again to talk about Star Trek Discovery. Season 1, Episode 6, Lethe. I looked it up just to make sure we are correct, according to, Encyclopedia Britannica, which no one actually uses anymore. But that thing. All right, there you go. Lethe.
It's good for something.
Mythological, obviously. It's a river in Hades. It's a river of forgetfulness. You drink from it, you forget your life. It's kind of, I think, helps the people who are dead pass on to the next world.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go then.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's the. I was trying to think of how this goes on, because no one actually forgets anything in this episode.
No, they never do. They can't forget.
But maybe it's the idea of passing on, that Sarek is in the process of passing on.
He's like, okay, this is what I'm going to forget. I'm definitely going to forget this.
Yeah. So spoilers. Okay, great. We said it. Good. So a quick recap, in case, again, you are using this for your... in
case you're not taking the whole spoilers thing seriously.
It's CBS All Access. So quick recap, and then we'll address various issues.
We'll do this pretty quick.
Okay. There are a couple storylines.
Yeah.
So the main storyline is that Michael senses that Sarek is dying, in trouble.
Yep.
In fact, he is.
Yeah.
She's correct in that assumption.
He's the victim of an assassination attempt.
Yeah. And so, due to a fairly complicated series of reasons why they can't just easily find him, they have to, strap on a thing, and she's like, oh, okay, then I can find him with my mind. So anyway, they find him.
Yep.
Meanwhile, she learns this secret.
Yes.
Which is kind of the part of the whole reason why this whole thing exists, really.
Oh, yeah.
Is just learning this moment.
This episode.
It's always, the whole episode is based around this idea of, back in the day, and we'll talk more about this, but just superficially, Sarek had a choice to make. Well, she didn't know this, but he basically had a choice to make. Oh, do I send Spock to the Vulcan Expeditionary Force? Or do I send Michael to the Expeditionary Force? He can only choose one, and he chose Spock. And so he didn't tell Michael his reasoning. He just said, "Oh, you weren't good enough." And she always felt like, "Oh, I guess I failed in your eyes." And there's kind of this moment of reckoning where he finally realizes now that, "Oh, I guess I did hurt your feelings a lot, and it really changed your life."
Negative impact.
Yeah.
On
Wow.
you.
Okay. Huh.
What do you know? Who did it?
Huh. So, but his whole reason for going off and then eventually being assassinated is that he was going to go to this peace conference with the Klingons, try to make peace with Klingons, and he's not feeling well.
No,
he's poorly after his near-death experience.
Yep.
So in his place goes Admiral Cornwell, who has just arrived at the Discovery to inform Lorca that maybe he's too crazy to have a ship, especially the ship. And so they have sex, which is a little weird.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that. Yeah. But they have a relationship from the past. It's very casual, obviously. Yeah. And so...
Yeah, no insignias or anything.
Yeah, so they're intimate. And then he pulls a gun. Is going to, accident, in his sleep, he wakes up and he's, PTSDing crazy. He's going to shoot her. And she's like, okay, you're definitely crazy. I thought you were. Now I know it. You're going to lose your ship. Hey, don't want to do anything bad, but you're going to lose your ship. So basically ends up, now that Sarek can't go do this diplomatic mission, you know who'd be great for it? Cornwell. Meanwhile, we had also seen a scene.
She loves to make peace.
She loves to make peace.
Unless you pull a gun on her at certain times. Yeah. But otherwise, she'll make peace.
So we get the feeling Lorca is fairly sure there's a trap ahead, afoot. And so sends her off to this trap, which then springs. The Klingons capture her, kill her guards, and we're left then with Lorca
against character,
deciding to go with the regulations.
Yep.
And drag his feet, so not go after her, but just let's wait for Starfleet permission to go do this thing. Meanwhile, there's also this other character, Ash, who's now been introduced to the crew and is now the chief security officer because the chief security officer just got killed.
Gone, he's dead.
She was dead.
Right,
Tardigrade
right.
incident. Yeah. So they had an opening.
That
hey,
Tardigrade
let's
boy.
get this new guy on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're more or less it. I mean, there's so we'll talk. So that we'll now break it down.
I mean,
a bit.
The bare bones of it.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts, generally speaking, on this episode, sir?
Oh, I came to like it more and more the more that I heard people talking about it. My initial problems, I think, were around the central story there. Wasn't entirely satisfied with how Michael and Sarek were sort of coming to terms. But I did like some of the major story beats where it seems like she's defiantly insisting upon, that they have a father-daughter relationship. I like that a lot.
She calls him father,
yes.
And it actually is a funny bit where she's like, this is what family does. We talk. And he's like, well, technically, you're not. Like, he chooses that moment to say, yeah, you're adopted, so it doesn't really count. Like, oh God. So she does not choose that moment to be angry at him, which she could. She could just, like, screw you, guy.
Yeah.
But
amongst the things you've done that are bad, that's not.
So you were having problems with it at first, you're saying?
Yeah, I was. And
what about it in particular were you having problems with?
The way that they were sort of coming to terms, it was just sort of, it was something about, I felt like a number of notes in terms of dialogue and plot were just sort of off for me.
By the way, I did look this up just to be sure, and I confirmed. There's a quote where this is we'll talk about this, the logic extremists, which is it seems almost like an oxymoron, but whatever. There's a terrorist,
extreme logic,
who blows himself up to try to take out Sarek, and we'll talk about that in a second. But as the terrorist is going to go off on the shuttle with Sarek, he asks, "Where are we going?"
Yes,
which is to this peace mission.
Yes.
Sarek doesn't want to tell him, and so he says the line, "In times of crisis, ignorance can be beneficial."
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. He set the term for it in times of crisis, you see.
Yeah.
So there
it
you
just
go.
sounds like
it's not like ignorance is always good.
It's just a weird thing for a Vulcan to say. I was like,
you were taken aback. Oh.
Huh.
You got smacked in the face with
I did. That a Vulcan would be...
How dare the Vulcan?
Had a saying that was like, you know what? Ignorance is great. Ignorance is bliss, basically, is what they're saying.
Times of crisis.
In a crisis. That seemed a lot.
And it's borne out. If that guy had not known what was going on, you see, maybe he wouldn't have killed him.
Maybe.
So there you go.
Okay. Yes.
Certainly Sarek would have been... He was ignorant of that guy knowing who he was, so maybe if he'd known, he would have let him on the ship in the first place.
So we do learn some interesting information from this moment, though, too, with some good background info. There's a lot of good background info in this episode.
Sure, they build the world building there.
Yeah, they do a lot. So one of the things you learn, I think you learn it while the guy injects himself and makes himself a human bomb.
Yep.
So he's kind of like the Iron Man 3 extremist project or whatever.
Yep.
Why didn't just teleport him out of the thing? I don't know. Like Sarek lets him talk for a while. Like, oh, okay, and then the last second he's like, oh, force field. But you think he could have just been like, well,
it's like I'm doing something. Well, I'm going to stop you.
Yeah. So the guy lectures him basically while he's about to blow up.
Yes.
And one of the things he's talking about is like, he says something about the failed experiment.
Yes.
Of the Federation.
Yes.
Basically, Sarek's idea of uniting humans and Vulcans, or maybe Vulcans and other races generally, but specifically humans, seems to be something that he's been big on, and other Vulcans have not. And it seems to be the theme of this show in a lot of ways, right? So you have the Klingons in the very beginning, Tukovma and Vok / Ash. We'll talk about that. Are all about no assimilation.
Right.
Boo, assimilation. We're going to fight.
Pure.
Yeah.
Pure Vulcans, no integrating anything. Even our technology. Ew.
And the Vulcans now obviously have these people that are logic extremists that are totally against the idea of assimilating Vulcans with other cultures.
Yes.
And in fact, we hear that, if you remember from the two-parter, the pilot basically, we saw that shot of a flashback where Michael is in the Vulcan Learning Academy, and then there's like an explosion. Anyway, what we learned from it in this episode is those were the extremists attacking the learning center because she was there.
Yes.
They're like, kill the human. So that shows you like there was a major rift going on.
Well, I mean, enough for some people to, we don't know what percentage of this.
Sure, we don't know percentage, but enough that...
So, yeah, they might, have a bomb. In fact, you can perhaps assume the fact that they couldn't use some other method, that it must be a small percentage of the, because they couldn't get the political power to do anything, so they're committing terrorist acts.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Good. But there also then comes to the point of not so extreme, but still prejudiced, is what we learn from this moment when Sarek has to make the choice.
Yes.
Is he's being told by higher up Jenkins, who's like, your experiments with these humans, we're cool with it, but I think he even says we have to titrate.
Yes, that's what he says.
So I'm just imagining a beaker and like little dripping humans, drip, drip, drip. So he wants to drip the humans, so he can only choose one, and that being either Michael or this younger Spock who isn't ready yet, but he's coming up the ranks, and when he gets there, if you want him to be in the expeditionary force, you're gonna have to choose now. So he chooses Spock over Michael, which
perhaps he figured, because he said it's not Vulcan. Look, the half Vulcan. Yeah, okay. It's like maybe he figured, let's get the half Vulcan in there first.
That's what I thought too. Was like, it seems reasonable that you'd be like, well, okay, so the half Vulcan, is that cool with you? So okay, we also then learn. I mean, since we're talking about this moment, which is the moment in the show,
it's what it was payoff.
It's what the payoff is for. Is this moment when we learn that it wasn't that Michael wasn't good enough for this expeditionary force, is that they were only going to choose one, and Sarek chose Spock instead. Now, what we learn is also Spock, then when the time comes...
Well, which we knew.
Yeah, we knew going in, but he basically says, nope, I'm not doing this expeditionary force, I'm going into Starfleet. So the choice was a completely wasted one. Now, your point, we were talking about this a little bit before we started here. I was a little confused. Sarek's reasoning for not telling Michael the truth sounded like his reasoning as he was vocalizing it was, because Spock turned me down and it was a waste of time and I didn't want to make it seem like it was all just a waste of time or something. And my point was, well, there was a gap between when we're right there in the moment when he learns and he says the thing. Like, he didn't know what Spock's response was going to be at that point.
No.
So what was his real reasoning for not telling her the truth for that whatever period of time it was before Spock goes, screw you, Dad? Which, by the way, that's also why we learn, probably they haven't talked. Because we know that Sarek and Spock spend many years not talking.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably because Spock turned him down. And Sarek was like,
so maybe that
you embarrassed, you humiliated me.
You screwed it up. I had a plan in place, and you screwed it all up, maybe.
Yeah. But so what do you? I was unclear. I was unclear on the reason. For not telling her the truth in that moment. Can you illuminate that?
No, okay.
You can't. Okay. All right.
I can only BS about it. I mean, he hasn't really said, right? There could be any number of reasons where he thought that she was already taking it bad what he told her. She was like, I don't want to stay here. And he's like, oh, you're having a human reaction. What are you doing having a human reaction? Which is like apparently the thing to do. Because the other guy is like, oh, you gave me a tough choice. What are you, a human?
Yeah, it's the worst thing you could say to someone on Vulcan. Yeah. It's like, oh, human. There we go.
Yeah.
So that was just unclear to me. Why he couldn't have just gone over there and said, well, they're only taking one person, and I'm going to choose Spock because he's half Vulcan, and he'd be more easily accepted.
Right. I mean, it's possible that he's, which I think he as a character always does actually, is sort of like, what? Oh, they said something racist? Well, why'd you make him say something racist? It's like, why are you getting upset that they're being racist? He's always like, well, you are half human. And he's like, he doesn't, he never is like, what? You guys treat my family terribly. It's like, no, we're going to treat your family terribly. Well, I'm okay with that. Like,
when you say he, you're talking about Sarek, yeah.
Sarek, yeah, he's always, he's always throwing up, he can only go so far.
Gotcha.
I think in his acceptance of humans, I think you can only go so far. So
now, and maybe if you're watching this and you're like really up on this, feel free to put it in the comments.
Oh, sure.
But I don't understand. Also, the other thing is what is so big about the Expeditionary Force?
Oh yeah, who knows?
Like they're making it out like. Well, Sophie's choice. Yeah. One of you will live and one will... No, one of you will get a career here, and one of you will get a career here. I mean, for instance, Spock, perfect example.
Sure.
He didn't go to Expeditionary Force. He went to Starfleet, which is where they were going to send Michael. And
they did send Michael.
Did she go to Starfleet, or did she just go straight to a ship?
Well...
Either way,
Starfleet.
Right, but it's Starfleet Academy. Sorry,
right.
But either way, so let's just say, to take it from Spock's perspective, though, he did not go to the Expeditionary Force.
No,
did fairly well for himself.
Yes,
like lived a life without regrets, probably in terms of career-wise. Now he wasn't a captain, but that's about it, right? I mean, it just seems like, was that literally the end of the world? Does it? Let's assume, I don't know, I'll just put a percentage on it because I don't know, but let's say 2% of Vulcans go to the Expeditionary Force. Okay. Does that mean the other 98% of Vulcan are just abject failures and horrible people that can't, go scoop ice cream and
who knows? Yeah,
like your life.
Yeah, if you know, let us know.
Yeah, it just seemed like it's not that horrible, right? I mean, okay, you didn't go to this one thing, but there are other life paths.
Right, but, to me, it's making me think of certain families who have high expectations for their children.
Sure.
And when they don't live up to them, they're not happy. And those cultures that they're in, where it's like, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, now apparently doctors and lawyers are crap too in this culture.
That's right. Oh, you're only a doctor. Well, thanks for disappointing the family. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. That was just weird because they set this up like I should know that this was really important, and I didn't. So I was like, okay, I'll go along with this. That this Expeditionary Force thing is a big deal, but I didn't really understand why it was so imperative that it's going to make a lifetime of hurt. Yeah. But he
wanted more exposition.
Damn it! I can't. I've been railing against exposition so much, and then in this situation, I'm like, actually, a little more exposition might have been nice. All right, fair enough. Pie to the face. But that's all interesting stuff. A lot of we saw Vulcan. We saw some shots of Vulcan, which is interesting. What did you think about the mind kung fu?
I didn't have a problem with that. I feel like we've seen other stories where
it felt Matrixy.
Yeah, or you could say
it felt like Morpheus and Neo,
or like Legion.
Did they kung fu it? I mean, they were chasing each other around Mind House.
Yeah, they were fighting in their minds.
Mind fighting, and just
and the comic that's based on, that Legion is based on, that interaction, they actually fight in their mind.
Which, by the way, we'll probably be covering Legion Season 2 when that comes out. also the fact that Sarek, I guess it's because he's dying. I don't know, but he was pretty bad at it. I was just saying, like, wow, he got his butt kicked multiple times. He kept getting into holds. It was like, oh.
Well, I mean, if you look at the first time, he knocked her out.
Yeah, because
so
she was surprised. I think she was just like,
second time,
you can do this.
He was kind of beating her around, and they were like, oh, she's not having a good time in there. Let's pull her out.
I remember she defeated him twice. I remember
she didn't defeat him.
She had him in a lock.
That was the
like
last
an arm
time.
bar or something.
Oh, but then he was like, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, all right.
You
remember it differently than I do.
I do.
Okay.
I do remember it differently.
So be it. So be it.
It was only the third time that where she could stay in. And then she's like, tell me something.
I like the fact that the little device they used looked like a mind meld where Spock puts his fingers. So it was like, ding, ding, ding. We can do artificial mind meld. So that was also another, memory, scene building thing, was that terrorist attack on the learning center to kill Michael succeeded. Like, she died for 3 minutes.
Yes.
And then the only way he brought her back, Sarek brought her back by injecting kind of part of his mind into hers. Created it. I don't know.
Part of his mind.
It's technobabble, but okay, sure. That's why they have a special
his
bond.
Essence,
he used part of the Force.
His chi
to save her. His katra.
Yes,
I believe is what it was. So they have this mind link now, soul link, which we've already seen.
Yes,
we knew that was a thing.
Yes.
So, yeah, they had very specific reasons why we can't use the Discovery to find her because if we go in there, the spore drive will interact with the thing. And then, but also it's contracting the sensors, so we can't see the stuff, and we have to... So it was very specific reasons.
Very Star Trek. Or just,
Lorca very quick to say, let's go do this, even though he gets orders from the Admiral not to go do it.
Right.
And his reasoning, we find out later, we kind of knew, but he's like, I'm not doing it to get Sarek. I'm doing it because you, Michael, wanted this and needed this, and so I'm doing it for you.
It may be a reason. I mean, it may have just been sort of like, you know what, hey, you don't want me to do it? Yeah, I'll do it. Like that's why I'm here, my ship, my magic ship, Yeah,
the magic ship.
Like, oh, someone needs to be saved? I'm gone. Goodbye.
So we had this moment then when the Admiral shows up in person. There's a bit where he's like, I'll take the hologram in my ready room. And it's like, no, she's boarding. Oh, all right then. And then we find out, like, she's made almost as many bad choices as he has in some ways. like she's maybe his therapist.
I don't think she is.
You don't think she's actually... She was his therapist? She's a therapist.
Yes, I think that's what it is. I think he's saying, are you out of practice?
Okay.
Like, are you practicing now?
It's possible she's not his therapist.
I wouldn't, yeah.
But it's also possible she was his therapist, then they had a relationship. Right. Then she became Admiral, then she had sex with him.
Because here's the thing. Okay, let's say he goes through this thing and she's his therapist. It's not like, wait, all those tests we had and we let you back into the service... she's not doing her job at that point, so I don't think she was involved with this therapy. Okay,
I'm just saying.
In fact,
her ability to break protocol seems pretty.
Yeah,
I can't imagine the HR department for the Federation's like, it'd be great if you go and try to do like a performance review of your captains. Make sure you sleep with them that night. That's important. Do that. But she does. Right. And also, she does, knowing that she thinks he's loco. He's got problems.
Yes, that's what she thinks.
But she's like, let's do this. So anyway,
Well, at least she's suspicious anyway, and you could argue perhaps that
the gun moment makes her confirmed.
Yes, confirmed, right. That he was doing an effective job of showing her a part of him that she knew. So this, the fact that he was, coming on to her, romancing her, whatever, the thing she may like about him is actually, perhaps before he was kind of a rule breaker, but not as much as he is now. Perhaps now it seems more drastic. I don't know. I'm putting that on it.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's not completely, impossible that this situation could happen.
Yes.
that coworkers would, but it just seems weird that. Come on, you're an admiral.
Yeah.
Act like one.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, I mean, I would have preferred if they hadn't used sex as a way to have her discover that.
That he's got PTSD basically.
Yeah.
So she's touching his scars, which by the way, there's this triangular shaped scar on his back. I've got a feeling at some point we'll learn how that triangle shaped scar showed up. But anyway, he wakes up, he's like, it's not to kill her. And he's like, oh, I'm just not used to having people in the bed with me. Okay. Ha 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 ha. Then she gets up, dresses, and leaves. It's like, hey, by the way, I'm getting rid of you. I don't want to screw up your career, but I'm going to screw up your career. I mean, you're not going to have this ship anymore.
Yeah, maybe, after you get some help, maybe you can get the chair back.
Right.
Maybe they'll just take it out of the ship and give you the chair.
Yeah.
Nice chair.
And there's that moment where we see him break down and plead with her.
Yes.
He's like, please do not take this. This is the only thing I have. And her response is interesting because she's like, I forgot the exact words, but it's
basically like
I don't know I can't tell if that's you.
Right.
You're just saying what you think I would want to hear. That's not you. You're just being manipulative.
Right, yeah. It's not necessarily saying that I need help or I am desperate. It's just, perhaps saying it only because you think, that I'll feel sorry for you.
In other words, you're a sociopath. Basically what...
Well, is that you're highly motivated not to tell me the truth.
You don't have actual feelings here.
Because he's been hiding all along.
You're just
he's been masking. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're really damaged, but you're pretending like you're not. You've got your eyes messed up. You're not doing anything about it because you want to live in that, guilt. And you're making all these weird choices and everything, trusting people who perhaps, are problems, just like you.
Yeah, so he is collecting these people that have trust issues.
Yeah, and perhaps that's why he was like, maybe Tilly was his favorite person to pick.
So I'm telling you that the Grand Tilly scheme, one day it's going to come around. I will say...
It seems less likely now.
It does seem less likely. But I will say that one of the reasons I mentioned that Tilly might be a spy was because I figured on this ship, it seemed likely in the story that there'd be a spy. Right. And then I was like, well, who would be the most likely spy? At the time, Tilly seemed like the most fish out of water character. I'm like, maybe she's the one. But now... we have another candidate for likely spy, and that is the new crew member Ash, who was rescued. Who was in the prison, Klingon prison, and they escaped together. He and Lorca. Yes. We had this shot of them on a holodeck. I mean, a version of a holodeck, which seems way out of anachronistic.
Looking at it again, it's pretty. The only thing you could say perhaps is technologically, it's not like the holodeck, is that there were just people running around shooting. So it's like, they're not actual, like, wait, am I talking to a character? Or am I talking to, they were fairly sophisticated.
Yeah, it's a really sophisticated first-person shooter game.
Yes. Right.
I'll just say that. So anyway, it seems a little anachronistic.
But considering where we are now technologically, I mean, if they couldn't do that, it's sort of like...
I see what you're saying. You're saying compared to what we actually have now as we sit with Xboxes and stuff, and we have goggles and we can do virtual. If they couldn't do that then, which in the 1960s, you'd be like, oh, that's a magic. But now, whatever. I can do that on my phone. Okay, good. That's a good point actually. But it is.
Yeah, what we still don't have is the Turing people walking around, which you have in, the Next Generation, where it's like, how can I make Sherlock, a challenger for Data?
Oh, right, yeah. It's Moriarty.
Yeah.
Oh, now he's taking over the ship.
Yeah. But, it's like, oh, wait, why am I taking over the ship? Maybe I want to ascend to another plane of existence.
Well, get ready.
I am very smart.
All right, speaking of planes of existence, we'll bring this up. We're coming back to Ash in a second. But we have this thing of Stamets. He's basically in this one scene where they're talking about, oh, can you help me with this mind meld and the Katra? And he's like, groovy.
Yeah.
And he's really psyched and happy. And there's a comment of like, oh, you've been doing too many mushrooms. or something like, oh, that all that spore drive stuff must be affecting your brain, and I don't think the spore drives. I feel like there's a mirror universe thing happening here.
Oh, not me.
You don't think so? I feel like because we had that shot from the previous episode where his mirror reflection lingers after he leaves.
Yes, that's true. I mean, I'm not convinced that that's mirror. It might be mirror.
Okay,
but
like imagine his alter ego. His alter ego is going to be uber happy, right?
Oh, maybe
because he's all stoic and like blah 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 blah, grumpy guy.
I guess. I mean, then it's an interesting fake out there because that's it makes all the sense in the world that if you're going to be messing around with mushrooms, they're going to have an effect on your emotions.
Okay, just saying.
He acts like everything. He's kind of trippy about stuff. Like, ooh, I'm really excited. Ooh, like, oh yeah. So I think that's what it is.
Okay, you think I feel like we might see mirror universe
and the mirror thing happening, or the mirror that happened, maybe just sort of like it's a trip. That's all. Like you see people.
But he's not looking at that point. He's left the room.
But it might be a signifier of his consciousness. Like I feel like I'm kind of.
Now we do have this thing. The trailer for the next week.
Yes.
Is this like we're stuck in a 30-minute loop?
Yes.
So it is a time-based thing. Maybe that mirror has something to do with that.
Possibly. But, I mean, it might be, but yeah.
You and I both seem to have the same reaction to that. It was kind of like, oh, that's been done.
Yeah.
Like I think every Star Trek series has we're in a time loop and we can't get out until we do something clever. So we'll see until we see it, we'll just see how this goes.
This is the best time loop we've ever
seen. It's the
seen.
best time loop episode ever.
I hope they never get out of this time loop.
This is the best 30 minutes on TV, repeated over and over again. Okay, so one of the overarching themes, too, of the show, or this episode, is that Tilly is using, and she even says, Michael's my mentor.
Yes.
So what we see is that Michael, is giving her all the ways to be captain. Run slightly faster.
Yes.
And then you'll be captain of a Constitution class like the Enterprise. They name drop the Enterprise.
They did.
Which is cool.
And she didn't say you get assigned to that, she would say.
And then you can become captain. So it's like boop, boop, boop,
yep.
and suddenly you're Kirk.
Yep.
But that's also interesting that she was insinuating that the Enterprise is a better ship than the Discovery.
Sure.
Which technologically it's not.
No.
What we know about the Enterprise.
It's only recently now that they got this thing. So
they're like, that's an upgrade. The Enterprise is an upgrade.
Yeah, and it might have to do with what that ship was doing before. It wasn't involved in the war. It was doing its science thing.
Yeah.
So it's only after they, upgraded the ship that it's like, we'll go into battle.
Yeah. Anyway, but the idea.
I should know. There are many people out there who understand what a Constitution class is, and understand why it's called a Constitution class. Do they teach Constitution in there?
They teach the constitutional law on the ship. And then so she's got this plan, and Tilly's trying to do the plan, and they had the little comical beat with the food processor.
Yes.
Which is the replicator talks to you.
Yes, it does. It's a sassy replicator.
Sassy replicator would get old really fast, I think. I mean, it's fine on the show. I'm just saying, if I were like day after day going, just give me my freaking sandwich.
Without the commentary.
Oh, you want peanut butter and jelly again? Fine. Anyway, so
that would be sad though. It's like I can make anything.
Yeah, like
peanut butter and jelly.
I can literally make anything. But how do you know Cheerios? Fine. So that's a comedic beat. It's a fun comedic beat.
Yep.
But so then at the end, when Michael realizes, oh, you know what? I was Tilly. Sarek was my mentor, and he was pushing me to do all this stuff. But I realize now there's these other ways. Find your own path. So she learns from that, and then decides, you know what? I'm not going to be jerk Sarek to you. I'm going to be, allow you to be you, basically.
Yeah, and with the exploration of her emotions.
Yes.
At the end of it, she was like, I'm feeling all this conflicting emotions here, and not just paying attention to one or deciding that I can't, I will not express those emotions or ignore them. She's starting to think more about that.
And then Ash says, because you're being human.
Yes, human.
So yeah, you are being human. Yeah. So it's a theory that's going around, and it's a justifiable one, that Ash is indeed Vok or Vok, the rebel Klingon who, when we last saw him, was being told, "Oh, you can still help bring about your grand scheme, but it'll cost you everything on the planet of deceivers or the Klingon tribe.
Everything that matters,
and so
is our purity."
Since then, we have not seen Vok, but we have seen Ash.
Yes.
And pretty much the absence of one has started the other one.
So Lorca or Laura or whatever her name is, Lorca. What is her name?
The female Klingon.
Yes, we saw her.
Laurel.
There you go. We saw her.
Right now,
She's the one.
Was she the one?
She's the one.
That was the prison.
Pretty sure.
They felt like.
Yeah, she was.
There was okay. So let's assume for a second that Laurel was the prison guard or the whatever commandant of the prison that was having sex with Ash and then gets half of her face shot off.
Yep.
Yeah, they already had a relationship. So the fact that they were having sex, in some ways, if that indeed is some kind of version of Vok, wouldn't necessarily be that. You're like, oh, right, their relationship.
It seemed like they were going that way.
Yeah.
When we last saw
them. Now,
them.
Ash seemed to be, or pretending to be, perhaps upset by it all.
Yes. But it may just be a situation where it's like, I had to have sex as a human.
And maybe he is legitimately upset with her in the moment when he's going to leave, because he's like, God, now that I'm about to go do this spy mission that I was all altered for, and God, you really did screw me over. Like, I am now a human for freaking life.
Yes.
Boo!
Yes.
Anyway.
Maybe so.
I don't know. But, so the idea is, Vok went through this big transformation. They put him in the prison planet. Then they put Lorca there, expecting him to escape. So he would then take Ash with him, and he would become a spy aboard the ship that matters.
Yep.
And so, there's a few things we've seen. He fights like a Klingon.
Yes.
Was one thing they mentioned.
Yep.
He tries to hide the fact that he's better at killing dudes than they break it out as like, oh, that was just a career move he was trying to make.
Yeah, was it? And there was this weird section where he asked him where he was from.
Yeah, Seattle. Actually, I know you're from 30 miles outside of Seattle. That's a lie. Just kidding. But I jacked up on it. What that whole thing is, I think, is attempting to soothe the audience's fears that this is actually a spy by going, oh, see, Lorca checked up on him and he's fine.
Oh, you think so?
I think that's what that was all about in some ways.
You think people might be thinking he was a spy even before that?
I feel maybe. I don't know.
I feel like they're highlighting the fact that he's taking on somebody who he doesn't know really.
Right. And Admiral says that.
Yeah, and they highlighted obviously, and presumably so that your brain goes, oh, we should have been suspicious all along. But to perhaps really saying, oh, somebody who just went through a terrible thing like you. Is really just using him to sort of say, maybe you're making another bad decision. But yeah, in terms of dramatically, just sort of putting a button on it for everybody, like, oh, pay attention to this for a different reason.
Right. There's also a bit at the previous episode when he finally gets on the ship or something, and Lorca says something like, well, sorry you had to go through all this, or something like that. He's like, no, I'm right where I want to be.
Oh.
And it's like, double meaning, perhaps.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Could you look over that way? Sorry.
Yeah, so another popular theory is that assuming Ash is Vok, that at some point he's going to be in Lorca's ready room, and the Tribble is going to go nuts. And then that'll be a signal, probably not to Lorca.
Probably not.
But to us, that's a Klingon.
Yeah, I mean, if Lorca's there, he might just be like, "That's strange."
Yeah, I might take it as He doesn't do that to anyone else.
It's like, oh wow, he really, he stopped using that, aftershave that he got when he was a prisoner.
Right. I wonder why. Yeah. But yeah, that would be a fun moment. It would be a fun moment if the Tribble goes nuts around Ash.
Yes.
And yeah, one other thing.
Then he kills the Tribble. That would be right.
I guess they have next. Do they have next?
Ooh,
you
geez,
snap it.
how do I clean this up before he comes back?
So I did like this scene too, though, where Lorca's like, "All right, Ash, you're the best pilot I got." He probably didn't say that, whatever. But he's like, "You're a pilot. I want you to get out there, make sure she comes back in one piece."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, sure, I'll get her. I'll get this ship back." No, not the ship. Michael.
Yeah.
And then there's that line where he's like, now they've just been best buds. They run around shooting together. They're talking. Hey, I want you to be my chief. Yeah. Then he says, he drops the line. Yeah. And if you don't, whatever, if she don't save her life, then don't bother coming back.
Yeah.
And like, he's serious. And you could tell Ash takes it seriously. Like, okay, wait, what? Like, what would have happened if he comes back without Michael?
Yeah, who knows?
So that raises the stakes in the moment. Then when they're on the ship and Tilly's like, she said to leave her in the state. He's like, no, bring her out of it. Yeah. I'd rather live myself. So yeah, there's a little bit of Lorca's command style.
Yes,
because I don't think Picard or Kirk or anyone would be like, don't bother coming back.
No, definitely not. I mean,
they'd say do your best and get them, but he wouldn't. It wouldn't literally threaten them.
No.
Kill yourself if you can't. I feel
as if though, if something had happened, he probably wouldn't have been that way. He's just being
maybe hyperbolic.
Yeah,
perhaps. But you don't know with Lorca. I don't know.
Who knows?
This is how I reward failure.
Yeah.
That's what a villain would do, if indeed he is one. So there was that. There was. I felt like there was some other stuff we're not hitting on.
Wow,
there was a lot. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Gosh, I felt like there was some. I'm sure there are other things, but yeah. If you have any other topics that you were like, oh, this was really important, feel free to write it down. We'll chat about it in Yon Comments.
Yes.
Episode 7 is going to be time loopy. We saw Saru. Saru has that talk where we already brought it up a little bit, but he just was like, "Hey, we're going to go after him, right?" No.
Yes.
What? He's very confused by that moment. He doesn't get it.
No, he doesn't.
I'm sending the Admiral to her death.
Well, I don't think. I don't know if Michael Burnham would have had a different reaction.
Yeah. Oh, and that's okay. That is important. So, after they bring Sarek back, and Lorca says, "Yeah, I wasn't doing it for him. I was doing it for you, Michael."
Right.
Hey, and then basically, I'm a captain who goes out of his way for his crew, and I'd like you to be up on. He gives her a crew spot, basically.
Right.
I want you to be up on the bridge.
Yes.
And so she says, I forgot the exact quote, but it's like, "I'm glad you're my captain."
Yeah, something
like that.
Yeah.
So basically,
because it was interesting. He was sort of like, you better not think about it, or you better not take time to think about it, or something. Like, I'm giving you this offer, you better say yes, or something. And she does the yes, which is interesting that she didn't. I thought it was a good point where she was before saying, I'm not sure of your motives for making me, and now she's not questioning it at all.
She's not questioning it at all.
And I feel like even then, there's a good reason to still be cautious about accepting a position there. But,
But right, he did this nice thing for her, so she's like, she's very gracious.
Like something she's doing for him, like, okay, I can really serve you.
Right. So she says yes, she's in, and she does make the point of like, I'm glad you're my captain.
Yep.
So, which is going to set up, at some point he's going to do, because he's already doing things that if she knew about them, she'd be probably very opposed to. Right. So, he's going to do that in her presence, and she's going to have to make that choice of saying,
She might, although I wonder now if she'll stall and it will be up to Saru. Because, he might be like, I feel as if...
You think Saru might be the mutineer?
He might be. It's like, okay, now I'm in a position where maybe I feel like I need to do it. That'll give me a more understanding of, the thing that you had to do.
It's possible.
Because the point of view I think she, I don't know.
I feel like it would be more dramatically satisfying in some ways if there's some kind of confrontation. Definitely Sorrow's involved. And he's like, "You're gonna do this again." Like, if it has that moment,
right? But she might be even more afraid to turn on Lorca after she turned on. It's like, "Oh, I can't do it now."
She will be,
right? So and so it might make it too difficult for her.
Maybe Saru gives her permission.
Maybe
there's a moment of like, you know what? Before I opposed you, this time you're right.
I don't know. I feel like, I feel like in a way they're setting up for him to be like, no, because
I just feel like then that puts more of the character arc on him. The story, I think, is more of a Michael story. I think she makes the positive decision.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, but
we don't know.
We don't know
what the show is going to do.
We're probably not going to know for a while because I don't think they're going to mutineer before the mid-season break.
Yeah, maybe it'll be Ash.
He'll go back to speaking really slowly.
Was that what some people were arguing about? Or not to shoot him?
I'll say if Vulc is Ash, they're going to need some kind of reason how this dude assimilated with humans so quickly. Like, because he obviously he never wanted to assimilate. That was his whole thing.
Right.
So he gave him like 3 weeks to like learn everything about human culture, be able to live 24/7 on a ship, and like, he's kind of flirting with Michael. They're even like moving toward a relationship. I mean, that's some top gear. I know what a human being is like stuff.
Sure.
And for him just to be like that, I almost feel like maybe there's a part of Ash that's still there or something, or maybe his spirit is riding the back of Ash's mind or something. I don't know, but
I'm more inclined to think that there's some way they have to quickly, like the Matrix, where it's like
unplugged.
It's like give me. I want to learn how to kung fu, so boom, it's in there. I want to know how to interact with humans. Boom, it's in there. Like, okay, we picked up all this stuff from being spies about how to, talk to humans and how they behave. Boom, we put it in there for you so you don't have to learn it. It just goes into your brain and it's there for you.
Because it would be kind of weird if, like, let's say 3 episodes from now, suddenly he slips up for some reason. Like, you just see him like, hello. Like, if he did, if it was that kind of, you're like, wait, what? Like, you spent all this time and then you've suddenly, in this moment, slipped. Like, I hope there's maybe a little more reasoning for how he could successfully pull this off and fool everyone.
Yeah, I want some reason. I would prefer it not be that there's some bit of him, or if he inserted himself into the body of, Ash or whatever.
We assume Ash was a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was at one time was an officer or whatever.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I just thought of as we were talking about technology is the hollow deck, what looked like a hollow deck. What they're interacting with didn't seem like they were corporeal.
Okay.
So they would shoot them. But I don't know if they were fighting with them necessarily.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, if they gotten punched, would they have been hit?
Yeah.
They would just go
there
through.
Were times when I feel like they were like, like...
Okay.
So...
Maybe.
That's one of the things about it's using holographic images and creating matter.
Yeah.
So...
Okay.
Perhaps that's the thing.
Perhaps that's a thing. A differentiation.
Yeah.
Very good. So also, by the way, so the Admiral's still kidnapped. So that's got to be an episode. Go rescue the Admiral.
Yes.
At some point.
Yeah, or. I
mean, it doesn't seem like
finish him off.
It doesn't seem like that's the nature of this next episode, though.
No, it doesn't. Well, no, if they're like over following the orders.
Yeah, maybe they just never go. Maybe because they probably wouldn't send the Discovery. They'd be like, well, no, you're too sensitive a ship.
Yeah.
We'll send the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Whatever. The Constitution class.
Yeah,
that's what they're better for.
Pike on this one there.
Yeah, good point. So maybe we don't. Maybe we just hear, oh, she died.
Well, I don't think they'll. maybe ultimately like, okay, we better do it now, and we'll send them. I think maybe 2 episodes down, they find a reason for it to happen. Maybe she's like really
or like
saying,
a prisoner exchange or something.
Yeah. There you go.
Anyway, so there'll be some moment probably where we
so.
come back
It'd be
in
hard.
around.
It'd be interesting. They're just like, no, she's dead.
Yeah. You get to keep your ship. So anyway, yeah, we've chatted a while, but good. Yes. Thanks for staying with us on this. If you liked it, please hit like, subscribe if you want to get more notifications. Mr. Robot's coming later this week.
Yes.
In the not too distant future, we're going to have Stranger Things 2, which we're probably going to have to binge watch and then give a overall assessment.
Yes.
Recap.
Yes.
Enjoyment of.
Yeah.
And the next week after that, you've got Thor Ragnarok, which I'm really looking forward to.
Me too.
So anyway, cool things on the way. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.